Imagine being able to taste a small sip of wine, swirl it in your mouth, and tell someone where in the world the grapes were grown, what the weather was like that summer, and what year it was bottled. There are people who can do this, and they have spent years training their senses to make it possible. Today, we meet one of them. Hello, and welcome to What Do You Actually Do, the podcast where we explore the fascinating and often misunderstood jobs people have, and we learn English through real conversation. I'm your host, Alex, and today we're going to Bordeaux in the southwest of France, the heart of the wine world. Our guest is Henri, who has been a sommelier for over 20 years and now serves as head sommelier at a Michelin-starred restaurant in the city centre. Henri, thanks so much for joining us.
Hello, Alex. Thank you for inviting me. It is a pleasure.
So, Henri, when you tell people you are a sommelier, what is the reaction?
It depends where I am. In France, people understand immediately. Outside France, half the people I meet ask, "What is that?" And when I explain, they say, "So you are a wine waiter." And I smile because the truth is much more than that.
So, in simple terms, what does a sommelier actually do?
My job has three main parts. First, I build the wine list of the restaurant, which means deciding which wines we will offer, working with growers, tasting hundreds of wines and choosing the ones that match our food and our style. Second, I take care of the wines once they arrive, storing them properly, keeping the cellar at the right temperature and humidity, deciding when to open which bottle. And third, during service, I guide our guests through the list, recommend wines to pair with their food, and serve those wines correctly.
It is a much bigger job than I thought.
Most people only see the third part, the serving. But the first two parts take up most of my time. I am, in many ways, more like a buyer and a curator than a waiter.
How long does it take to become a sommelier? What is the path?
There is a formal path and an informal one. Formally, in France, there are sommelier schools and there are international qualifications like the Court of Master Sommeliers and the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, the WSET. The most senior qualification is Master Sommelier, which is one of the hardest exams in the world. There are only about 300 Master Sommeliers in existence.
300 in the entire world?
In the entire world, the pass rate is famously low. People train for a decade and still fail.
Are you a Master Sommelier?
I am not, no. I have an advanced sommelier certification, which is one level below. I am preparing for the master exam. I have been preparing for 3 years and I think I will be ready in another 2, maybe 3.
That is dedication. So, how did you start? Was wine always the plan?
My grandfather had a small farm with a few rows of vines, just for the family. I helped him during harvests as a boy, but I trained as a chef first. I cooked in restaurants for 10 years. Then in my early 30s, I realized I was more excited by the wine side of the meal than the cooking side. So I changed paths and started studying wine seriously.
What does a typical workday look like for you?
I arrive at the restaurant around 11 in the morning. I start by checking the cellar, temperature, inventory, any deliveries arriving today. I taste any new wines that have arrived from suppliers. Then we have a staff briefing where I tell the team about any new wines on the list or any pairings we are highlighting that night. Service starts around 7 in the evening. I am on the floor with our guests for the next 4 or 5 hours. I usually finish around midnight, sometimes later if there is a private event.
What does it mean to pair a wine with food? People hear that word a lot.
Pairing is the art of choosing a wine that makes both the wine and the food taste better than they would alone. Some pairings are classical. Oysters with Chablis, for example, or steak with Bordeaux. But every dish is different. The acidity of the wine has to match the acidity of the dish. The weight has to match. The flavors either complement or contrast. A good pairing is greater than the sum of its parts. A bad pairing kills both.
That is a beautiful way to put it. How do you actually train your palate? Because it sounds like a special skill.
It is a skill and it is trainable. Every day I taste blind. I taste wines without knowing what they are and I try to identify them. I look at the color, smell deeply, taste, and write notes. Over years, your brain builds a library of memories. A wine from Burgundy in a warm year smells different from a Burgundy in a cool year. Your nose learns this. It is like learning a language. After a while, you stop translating and you just hear it.
That is an amazing way to describe it. How many wines have you tasted in your life, do you think?
I do not know exactly. I taste between 30 and 100 wines a week. Across 20 years, that is somewhere over 50,000, maybe more.
50,000 wines!
50,000. And I have only tasted a tiny fraction of what exists. The wine world is enormous.
What is the hardest part of the job?
The pace during service. A busy night, our restaurant might serve 80 covers. Each table wants conversation, recommendations, attention. You are moving constantly in a hot dining room, on your feet, balancing professional knowledge with social warmth. By the end of a Saturday night, I am physically and mentally finished. But also, there is the financial side. Wine is expensive. A single bad decision in stock can cost the restaurant thousands of euros. I take that responsibility seriously.
And the best parts?
Two things. First, the moment a guest tastes a wine I have recommended and I see their face change. They taste it, they pause, and then they smile. That moment is everything. Second, the producers, the small family vineyards I work with all over France. Visiting them, walking through their vines, drinking last night's wine in their kitchen, those are friendships, not transactions.
Do you have a memorable story?
Yes, one that I think about often. A few years ago, an elderly couple came in for their 50th wedding anniversary. They told me they had honeymooned in Bordeaux 50 years earlier and had drunk a wine that they remembered all their life. They could not remember the producer, just the year and the village. After dinner, I went down to the cellar and looked. I had one bottle from the right village, the right year. I brought it up. I poured them each a glass. They tasted it, and the wife, she just started crying quietly. The husband held her hand. They sat there for 15 minutes, not speaking. That is the moment I love this job.
That is genuinely moving. A funny one to balance?
Laughs. Many. Here is a small one. A young man came in to celebrate a promotion with his girlfriend. He wanted to impress her. He ordered an expensive bottle of red wine, a Saint-Emilion, and when I brought it to the table, he insisted on tasting it himself, very seriously, swirling and sniffing. He took a sip, paused dramatically and said, "Yes, this is corked. Please bring another." The wine was perfect. There was nothing wrong with it. I smiled, said of course, took the bottle away. I poured him a glass from a much cheaper bottle of the same wine, served it as the replacement. He tasted it, smiled and said, "Ah, much better, thank you." His girlfriend, by the way, knew exactly what had happened. She was a sommelier in Paris.
She was a sommelier herself.
She left him a very generous tip and a small note for me. I still have it.
For someone listening who is thinking, I love wine, I want to do this for a living, what's your advice?
3 things. First, drink less, taste more. The job is not about consuming wine. It is about analyzing it. You must learn to taste deeply, to remember, to compare. A spitting bucket is your best friend. Second, get a real qualification. WSET is a great place to start. The world has many people who say they know about wine and few who can prove it. The qualifications matter. And third, work in restaurants. Theory is one thing, service is another. You need to learn how to read a table, how to recommend without lecturing, how to be present without being intrusive. Those skills only come from being on the floor.
Beautifully put. Henri, thank you so much for sharing your world with us today.
Merci, Alex. The pleasure was mine.
That was Henri, a head sommelier in Bordeaux. Now let's review some useful vocabulary. Sommelier. A sommelier is a trained wine professional who chooses and serves wines in a restaurant. The word is French and now used in English too. Second, palate. Your palate is your sense of taste.
A trained palate can identify subtle flavors that most people would miss.
Third, pairing. Pairing means matching a wine with a particular food so they taste better together. Henri spends much of his time creating pairings. Fourth, cellar. A cellar is the cool storage room where wines are kept. A restaurant cellar can hold thousands of bottles.
And finally, corked. A wine is corked when it has gone bad because of a faulty cork. It tastes musty and unpleasant. A real sommelier can identify a corked wine in seconds. And that's it for today's episode of What Do You Actually Do? A huge thank you to Henri. Join us next time when we move from sipping wine in Bordeaux to a very different kind of intense focus. We're going to Seoul in South Korea to talk to Ryan, a professional video game player on one of the country's top esports teams. He plays for a living in front of millions of viewers. Until then, take care.